All right, we're back in the hub.
Finally
Back in the hub.
The music, get to be in the same room. It's a gloomy yet wonderful day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It is September 17th, 2021. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We are episode 513.
513. Let's come up with something for that. 513.
The 513. It's Friday.
513.
And as the young
Who's
bucks
the
call
513?
it, Friday.
Friday. What's the 513 area code?
No idea.
Detroit?
I was guessing somewhere upper Midwest, like a Ohio area, maybe even. The 513. Let's
give a shout out to the 513.
To the 513. Boom, dude! I nailed it.
What'd you say?
It's Ohio, baby. I said
Ohio.
It feels like Ohio. See, I have my pulse on Ohio. I got the feels for Ohio.
I'm usually pretty good at stuff like that, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What I'm pretty good at is predicting the weather.
College mascots and, area codes and zip codes. Not zip codes, but area codes.
You're not the Jeopardy kind of guy. You're like the randomness conversation guy at the bar.
Dude, I suck at Jeopardy.
I was going to say, like, you're not.
Are you good at that?
At Jeopardy?
Yeah.
No. College dropout. I have no idea what's going on when I watch Jeopardy. Like unless they pull up sports, I'm like, no thanks. For
sports, for maybe 200, I can't do.
I'll do the tough ones, but I'll be like, I'll take simple arithmetic, Alex, for $10. That's basically what my Jeopardy play. But what I am good at is predicting the weather. And if you're doing Ironman Chattanooga, I predicted weeks ago that it would be highs in the mere high 70s, lows in the 50s, and right now it looks.
You've been gloating all morning.
Dude, I'm telling you, been feeling it. I'm not worried about talking about it. It's concrete. I've never been more confident than anything besides that, and Tennessee having a losing football season this year. Outside of that, I have no confidence in anything.
Are they still down?
No, they're not down. We're 1-1. We'll see how we go against Tennessee Tech.
Fulmer left.
It's been a rough couple decades.
You also predicted. Well, you kind of threw it in there last time, but wetsuit legal. Do you think that's going to hold true?
Yeah. Have you seen? Listen, we're going to get rain here for the next week, and then it's going to be lows in the 50s. I'm telling you, it is going to be a fast day. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a fast day. Yeah. Welcome. Which also means, guess what, guys? Room for all but zero excuses because it's going to be a stellar day.
It's funny you said that, dude.
You were cringing.
People was like, it's going to be cool. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? And they're like, why? And I said, because if it's super hot, I got an excuse built in, at least a little bit of something.
It's going to be a stellar. Well, we also predicted / suggested, we might get into this here in a little bit, is years ago we suggested that, you know what? They should at some point think through moving the Ironman World Championships outside of Kona. We got a lot of feedback from that, a lot of backlash. And listen, I understand that. I get it. It's tradition. But listen, traditions break. Like Ironman is a business. Okay. And there was an article. I'm just telling you. I'll go into this in a minute after our intro. But yesterday there was an article out in Triathlon magazine that Andrew Messick, the CEO of the Ironman Group, has hinted that they are exploring all options in moving the Ironman World Championships at least in February, if not October of next year, which we talked about. In my opinion, I get it. I get the tradition part of it, but I also think move it around the globe. Make it like 70.3 Worlds. Go pick tough courses in different places, not just the same thing every single year. Because I really do believe you have to. It's like really, really hard course. It is, but there are other hard courses that are also fair out there, like even some in the cooler climates that are hillier and a lot harder. I would say that I would be disappointed if they ever picked a location to where the swim was wetsuit legal, because I think that should be like it should never be a flat course. It should be a hilly bike, a fair run, and the swim should be non-wetsuit no matter where. Because I think the wetsuit is we need to expose those things. The World Championships, for God's sakes. But before we get into that, because I'm going to riff.
Oh, you want to keep going on that? What?
No, I was just going to intro and people into our new listeners, since we're creeping up towards 2 mil. We are we're creeping up on a 2 million downloads. So I just Mike and I both want to take a minute and thank our moms for putting our and the builders around here at Henniger Homes for putting our podcast on repeat for the past year and getting us up to 2 million, and along with other 33. Thanks Chris, thanks Damien, and our other 33 listeners. But no, we're creeping through. We'll celebrate for about 5 seconds like we usually do, and just kind of keep on trucking. But it's your first time tuning in, and you haven't been a part of those 2 million downloads, we welcome you. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we appreciate you giving us your time. If you haven't been able to tell already, we cover it all. We cover swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We'll even talk about triathlon-related news, and we'll do race recaps, race previews. We'll even do some big race professional predictions like I will today for 70.3 World Championships, which are tomorrow. And a lot of you are racing in. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just kind of sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what we know our athletes are going through. We both work with athletes in a very, very wide range of abilities across the globe. So we can usually kind of take the general pulse from them and also the pulse from our Facebook group, which you can search on that. Answer one simple question. We'll let you in. It's called Crushing Iron Group. A lot of awesome people in there. We'll just kind of generally take, again, like the pulse of the community and kind of see what's going on in there and address some of those topics, maybe even do a Q&A driven by those people. But that's it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. We have one agenda, though, and that's to keep you happy and healthy. In your endurance sports journey. In your sports journey.
I read something the other day that says happy equals healthy, or healthy equals happy, which I think is an interesting way to think about it too. But yeah, because sooner or later in your life, your health is going to be your most important thing. Right?
It should currently, no matter what.
I know, but I'm just saying at some point everybody's going to realize, like, shit, you know, whatever.
Everyone takes their health for granted until they miss it.
Yeah. So were you going to move on to something else or still Kona? Because I had a thought about that. I don't, we had kind of thought that was a good idea to move it.
100%.
Just for fun and everything like that. But I think it's a little more of a logistics thing for them. I think Hawaii is going crazy over there.
Well, it's not about logistics. It's about dollars.
Well,
right?
I get that, but I'm just saying I don't think he's like, hey, I want to move it around. I just think Hawaii, like they might be thinking this might not be going back to Hawaii.
I think it was a Messick is pretty crappy with his words usually. He really, if he gets on air or like comes out with a video on Facebook or whatever, any kind of other, print medium, he's usually pretty terrible with his wording. He never really drives up new business or creates a lot of confidence in the triathletes.
He's a neutral CEO.
Yeah, exactly. He knows who cuts his paycheck. I've always said, at least, and during that podcast, is that I think moving it around makes sense for a lot of reasons. I think it opens it up to different athletes. Like, listen, let's be honest, the U.S. gets pretty much favoritism because it's always been Hawaii. It is hard logistically to get to, but I also think from a professional standpoint, putting it somewhere else where it's a different climate, like you have to be of a specific body type to do very, 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 very well at Kona, especially on the professional. And you have to be very light. You have to be very lean. It does not bode well for the bigger athletes. They cannot compensate for the amount of heat they're producing. So while yes, like you could argue that, well, that's still the best athlete on the planet. Well, if you put them in different categories, like look at Alistair Brownlee or the Brownlee brothers, they would be considered for years and years and years the absolute best short course athletes. Alistair and Johnny Brownlee, ITU athletes, Olympic gold, Olympic medals for probably 4 to 6 years until Gomez and Moya came up. Like they were considered like the best of the best ITU Olympic distance triathletes, unless they went and participated somewhere where it was hot, and then they just did not perform well. Like take the Rio Olympics for one, and then there's this scene that was like a where I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the ITU races in Mexico, and it was incredibly hot. And one of them started to I think you and I watched this, or at least watched it. He was fainting towards the last little bit. He was almost ready to fall over and pass out. And his brother comes up and helps him across the finish line. Mm. There was this big to do about, is that outside assistance and this and this. But they're at that time the best athletes, still some of the best triathletes on the planet. But they couldn't, and they never do very, very well in hot conditions. So when you make a quote unquote world championship just in one, pretty much standard climate, I think it kind of narrows. I think it narrows the cream of the crop down just a little bit too much, in my opinion. Listen, Ironman's only doing this for one reason: dollar bills, y'all, and it is because they can't risk continuing to move and backlog people who have these entries for Kona. And then years and years and years ago, when they thought it was a great idea to drum up new revenue and was a great marketing thing. You do 12 Ironman, and oh, hey, you can enter into the legacy program and go and do Kona because you're going to register for more Ironman races. You're going to pay the extra, chunk of change there is to go to Kona. But now you're seeing this gigantic backlog of people participating. And now what you're saying is the fact that you goofed and you went ahead because you anticipated the Ironman World Championships continuing to happen in October. You went ahead, you basically gave out Kona slots at Coeur d'Alene and Lake Placid and even Tulsa to an extent. You overloaded from like the 40 traditional spots that were usually given at races, but like they're not impossible to come by, but you had to have your best day and luck to qualify for Kona with 40 slots. There was 200 and 250 slots. I had people that were there they weren't giving them out, but they rolled down to like 30 deep. That's never happened ever in the history of the Ironman World Championships in Kona. It's always kind of happened at overseas international 70.3 races. Like we watched it at Chattanooga a couple years ago. Like your age group rolled down to like 40 because no one's like, I don't want to drop 4K to go over to Nice, to race a 70.3. Like I'd rather not. And there's, you can argue a bunch of ways about, your placing and whatever, but so what they have is this huge backlog, and now they're offering 26 spots, which if you do the math is one for each age group. Okay, one for each age group to qualify because they overload and they backlog. So this is a money play. I think Messick also went public with this to kind of put a little leverage over the state of Hawaii and the people who make the decisions. They're like, listen, yes, Hawaii and Kona is tradition. It's what the NBC coverage has been based on. But listen, people want to compete in the Ironman World Championships. They'll get over it. Okay, the traditions break. People get over it. And so what he's saying is, if you ain't gonna come to play, then we're gonna go play somewhere else. Because again, Ironman, yes, it's a distance. Yes, it's a legacy. Yes, Kona is tradition. But Ironman wants to make money. So think of them as a company that produces a product, and they keep going to this one huge store, and the store says, hey, listen, I know you've got this great product, and you really want to sell it, but I just don't think we're going to be open this year. They might let it slide for a little bit because they get a lot of customers from this one store, and then the next season rolls around, they're like, yeah, we need to push back our open. They're going to be like, screw you, we're going to find a different store to push our product. So you know what we need to do? We need to sell this product and we need to make money. So screw tradition is what they're saying. Is we need to make money and catch up to where we've made mistakes, had some bad cards go against us, and you know what? We're going to see what happens.
I mean, I agree with that. Obviously, I don't know what Hawaii's thinking. I mean, I know it. Anyway. Maybe they should move it to New York or California because everybody's leaving there and there's plenty of room on the streets.
They could do that.
Actually, as you were talking, I was like, Chattanooga might not be a bad place for that. No way.
They'll go to no way. Too easy of a swim.
Well, they could make it up.
They could
do something.
You're correct. They could make it like they did for 70.3 World Championships. They made it actually like if the current had been even like remotely like strong that day, it would have been a very, very, very difficult swim because they spent 35 to 40% of it swimming upstream. Mm-hmm. You're right. They could, and they changed the bike course for that race, and they changed the run course. I'm not sure how much harder you're going to make the run.
I'm saying they had a world championship here.
Yeah, this is true.
So they've got it, and
they were up for grabs this year too, like between Chattanooga and St. George.
Put it in August, man. They'll get some Kona.
Dude, that would be legit. Next year, I'm calling it. Next year, no, I'm not calling it.
Let's call it this year, man. They need one this year.
They do need one
Chattanooga's
this year.
pretty, light on their feet, I think.
What's it? Yeah, we're pretty swift. What I say, a prize purse for the pros is like $250K.
Yeah, next year. I guess
like for next week.
Oh,
there's a huge, yeah. Because Kona got canceled, they got some money they need to move around. So next week here in Chattanooga, we've got the full, and there's a pretty solid pro list. People are going to come make some money and tune up. Then I think I think listen, times a changing. And I get
it's
it.
An understatement.
And yes, it's like, and of course you're going to have like, the people are like, well, I've been there. It'll never be the same. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Same people who said, I won't watch this and I won't watch that. And, now they're doing this. And what are you doing? You're watching it. Okay. So like, don't be the old person.
Well, I got to say, I'm that kind of guy, but
I know you are, but
even if I had qualified, I don't think I would have went. I was just like, that just seems like too much for me, man.
It's a lot going on.
I mean, it's a tough course. You go out there and get destroyed in your first one, and it costs you $10,000. And you're looking at yourself in the room the next day going, what did I just do?
Yeah. Now I'm in debt for the next. Yeah, now I'm in debt.
So what? But I like the idea of moving around a little. I'm kind of that guy where like I like the old baseball stadiums that are different. You know, they have different dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
It's different to play in. I'm like kind of like what you're saying as far as heavier athletes or whatever. Certain athletes do better in, you know, different baseball parks with more room or like shorter fences in certain corners or whatever, like different angles and things like that. And now, you know, like a lot of parks, well, I guess they're kind of going back to the old way where they have their own little idiosyncrasies, which is awesome. But I've always liked that. It's kind of weird to think about, you know, like a football field's always exactly the same. Baseball fields are kind of different, you know, so it's sort of in that realm where it could be interesting to see, you know, where, you know, moving it around a little bit. I mean, obviously they do that for 70.3s, and it does kind of make sense to me because I can't imagine Hawaii for certain places around the world has just got to be an unbelievable venture.
A no-go. Like it's a no-go. Like I know a lot of people that will qualify and then sign up for it to get the token and say they qualified and then just not go because it's going to cost them another $7,000 or $8,000. You know, because then you got to try and book on the island and they're like, oh, you can only stay for like 2 weeks. You're like, who can take off work for 2 weeks? You and I could. Yeah. But still, or we could take it on the road with us. But yeah, it'll be. I don't think St. George is out of the cards that they've shown that they are like. I mean, they built a freaking Ironman logo in their city. They're like, we will take you, and they have a fair course. I don't know how. I think they need to make the full a little bit harder than the 70.3, which they do for like the actual full distance. That's next May. Nice little segue. But the 70.3 Ironman World Championships are tomorrow. It's in St. George. And I'll do a slight, I know you don't keep up with this, but I'll do a slight prediction. I'm predicting for the first time ever, there would be a gold medal Olympic winner and a 70.3 World Championship. I'm picking Christian Blumenfeld to win over his teammate and the previous 70.3 World Champion, Gustav Eden. After that, don't really care. It's going to be anybody's ball game. That's your 1 and 2. Okay, that's your 1 and 2. Blumenfeld, Eden, 1 and 2. After that, it's like up for grabs for 20. A lot of people bowed out. You're not going to have Jan Frodeno, Sebastian Kienle. Lionel Sanders backed out last minute, frankly, because he doesn't want to get his doors blown off. There's well, it's true. Like it's just not. He's
any of those guys?
He's a significantly better 70.3 athlete than he is a full. Like he could go down as one of the best 70.3 athletes ever because that's his distance. He doesn't give away enough time on the swim because it's so much shorter. He can smash the bike, and he has proven he can outrun with anybody in the half. But he just can't figure out the full. That's what he's obsessed with now. So he's coming to Chattanooga.
Oh, he's coming here. So
yeah,
Sebastian coming here?
And then I don't think so. There's a lot of the bigger name full distance that dropped out of 70.3 World Championship, I guess, targeting Ironman California in Sacramento, which is either the weekend before or would have been the same weekend as Kona to be like their. I think they either move some money there. That they just kind of wanted. That's where their showdown is going to be. But some of the big names just aren't going to be there. I just told you, it's like the same like weekend as Kona. Or that would second week of October, something like that. So he's doing it looking like 2 weeks, but. So we'll see, but I think those two, and then I'm predicting, much like I did for the Collins Cup, another prediction gone right is I'm predicting Taylor Knibb is going to absolutely come out and make herself, even though she should already be a household name. She's a young American. I think she's 23, maybe a little bit younger. Predicting her to win, and then I'm picking Daniela Reef and then Lucy Charles to come in behind her. The only reason I would not pick Knibb is if for some reason she's too behind Lucy Charles in the swim, but I don't think she will. And those are when I think the women's race is easily going to be the best race to watch. And I honestly hope they focus the majority of their time on the women's race because I think it's going to be absolute fireworks because the top 5 or 10 there are the top 5 and 10. Holly Lawrence, the best athletes, 70.3 athletes on the planet. They're all there. At least the ones that you would argue could be in the top 10. The men, it's like you got those two, and then it's like you got not lower tier, but ones you would never really consider to actually win. You got those two guys, and you got a bunch of like upper end pros because the other main ones dropped out.
Can we just quickly talk about that for a second? Like when you have people that separate themselves at that level, that's kind of impressive.
It's next level. Like
it's like. How does that happen in the world?
And that's what they're
Michael Jordan.
They're the best of the best of the best of the best. But you have to. And they have it's in their DNA. Yeah, it's probably in your DNA too. We're just too lazy to do anything with it. Like they basically had they hit the jackpot of DNA with picking the right sport, with having motivation and commitment and consistency to see it all come together. Most of us just do that in all aspects of life. But yeah, so
Are they usually runners first or swimmers?
It depends, like on how some of them just came up, like the Eden and Blumenfeld are like the Norwegian national team, which they're just absolutely smoking people right now. But the only thing, again, the bike course is fair there, but the bike course will probably be just a train of dudes sitting in. It'll be unless someone tries to go away in the bike, it'll be kind of what they call IT races, which is shower, shampoo, dry off. Which is the shower is the swim, the dry off is the bike, and then they'll get off and then do a run. But it'll be more of a run race, which again is don't be shocked if you see those two guys run 106s and 107s off the half marathon. They're going to absolutely fly. But that's our pro update. We don't really ever go into much pro talk, triathlon business talk, Ironman talk, but there was a lot to cover. Yeah, sorry, that was my pro.
I mean, maybe we'll have some pros. Remember, we invited all the pros to stop by the hub while they're in town. Maybe we can do that now.
Yeah, maybe we can do that. And speaking of inviting,
I'm sure a lot of pros listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure all the one of you that listens occasionally to mindlessly while you're sitting up late at night.
What's up, Starkey?
Trying to feed your kid. Swing on by the hub. And if you're coming to the race, we have an Ironman open house that starts at 8:00 Friday morning here at the hub. Ironman is hosting kind of a community coffee. If you're going to be in town, and you're participating, or it's more for people who are just interested in participating in the sport, who don't know really what the sport is or how to get into it. That'll be here at the hub. You can find more information on that on our Instagram, C26 Triathlon. And then also, if you're just a listener and want to come by and say hi, come on by. We are at, I think, Friday from 1 to 5. We'll be here. Just come by and say hi. We always love meeting you guys at races and getting emails and stuff like that. So it's always great to see and hear from our listeners.
Yeah, come on in. I'll be sitting in the hot tub. We don't have a hot tub.
We're getting a hot tub?
I was hoping that would come in by then.
No, it's not going to come in by then. What do you want to talk about today? Because I feel like we just went 25 minutes of an intro and a couple commercials about Ironman and 70.3 World Championships.
Well, frankly, on my mind, there's two things. Obviously, my race, and secondly, like post Ironman, how much fitness is gained during a race like that, and then how most people just kind of let it all go off to die.
Yes, they do. They let it go off.
And how important it is to, kind of at least get back in there a little bit and stay around, because you do get such a big fitness boost from these races. You go through all that stuff. And I always talk to people about how important I think it is after an Ironman to get back in the water, because you probably just went through your toughest swim of the year, and you probably feel you may have had a rough swim, but you probably feel fairly confident, or at least something coming out of it, the fact that you actually just did an Ironman swim. So when you go back to the pool, it's really interesting, because usually you feel like you're a better swimmer, I think. You kind of have more confidence, and you're sort of like, oh, I could throw down 2,500 right now, easy. And to me, that's like the time, because you probably learn things in an Ironman swim that you don't realize that you can either correct or, build on. And it's a good time, and it's a great thing to do after an Ironman. So
I think the 2 to 4 week span post big race of the year, regardless of what it is a very, very delicate time frame. Mm-hmm. There are more bad decisions made in that span of time than all year combined. People either have great races and are like, I think 2 next year sounds good. I'm going to sign up for 2. They are just flying high, and they're like, I want to do. And then they give themselves like 2 days off, and they're like, I really, really want to use this momentum that I gained from one day, and catapult it into next year and make these like commitments to themselves and write things like, give yourself some breathing room. Like 2 weeks is the minimum. Athletes that do a full with me, 2 weeks choice. Do whatever you want to do. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. Hope you're fine, but don't do it. Like, just do whatever you want to. You need to disconnect and let the dust settle from a great day, from a bad day, from reality. You need to take a break and veg out. You see way too many people do one of two things. They do what you said, which was they take too long of a break. They go from being in the arena to getting on the interstate and driving 500 miles away and they don't even know where the ballpark is anymore. And they start back from square one. Or you see people just want to stay in the ballpark and like, you know, and get closer to home plate. Like those two things are recipes for one, burnout, quick burnout, and overtraining, being the ones that want to stay in the ballpark close to home, who want to get right back to training because I can't take them. I need that structure. You need time. And then the other one is the ones who got now, you know, because listen, like that's the hard part, in my opinion, about these late season races is that when they end, it kind of like front ends into the other delicate time of the year, which is November and December, which is I don't know, maybe I'd look up the stat to this. Is we need a stat guy. Is what the average American puts on in weight from November to December. I'm gonna say 3.8 is the average gain, because everybody says, yeah, you know, I think I can probably, you know, I'm just gonna start. You know, we got Thanksgiving. It's like eat freely, don't really work out, don't do much. And then December rolls around, and you're like, why would I start now? I got Christmas coming up, you got cookies, you got parties, you got cake, you got all this kind of fun things. I'll just start in January. And then January, you crush it for 2 weeks and you get right back to the weight you had in October. And you think you're out here, you know, doing a new thing. So you do those. It's just a very hard time of year. I think it's one of those times where you just got to kind of tread water, do a little bit here, do a little bit there. I really encourage athletes to stay active, but do things that don't have anything to do with triathlon. Like, you know, go out and do, you know, some 5Ks or just run or trail run or mountain bike or gravel ride. Go hike, do a Tough Mudder, do whatever. Like whatever is keeping you active, but not like specific to the obsession that you currently have, which is triathlon or 70.3s or fulls. Like do something that keeps you active and kind of keeps you going through the motions and not being sedentary, because the longer you're sedentary and not doing something, the harder it becomes to not be that person. And then the road to way back is just longer and longer. And then you find yourself in a spot where I'm sure many of you right now that are listening find yourself in the spot where you've gotten so far out of your previous shape that you've almost given up on starting back because you're so afraid to see what the pace is going to be on the wall clock in the pool. You're afraid to see what your power is going to be on the bike, and you're afraid to see how much your pace has dropped relative to the same effort it is in the run. And that terrifies you so much that it paralyzes you into doing nothing. And it's going to keep you doing nothing for a longer period. So I'm all about just be flexible and stay active.
Do you really tell people to do Tough Mudders?
I don't tell people. I just allow it. Okay, that's how I allow it. I don't tell them. I saw you scoff at me with your eyes.
Well, here's my thing. I mean, I agree. You know, all that stuff.
You can't bash Tough Mudders. I mean, you.
I'm not.
You
I'm
at
not
one
at
point
thought
rollerblading was like a method of cross training.
No, I'm not bashing them. I was happy or surprised, I guess, to hear that you're like recommending people to do
Get
Tough
a little
Mudders.
more flexible in my old age.
Yes, you are. I mean, that's the point here, is the flexibility that you're gaining. And my thing with, I think it's a personal thing with swimming, is that, you know, because most triathletes come on board late with swimming in their lives, and we've talked about this a million times, but you grew up swimming. A lot of people grow up swimming, and it's just sort of innately in their genes. And for me, coming off an Ironman, and you probably swam a crap ton going into it, and then you just had a big swim, and then all of a sudden I feel like you're kind of in the ballpark to sort of building in some natural mechanics that are going to come, that could stick with you over time. And now would be a really good time to do that. So like in a way, you know, whether it's mountain biking or all these other things or whatever, but like if you just sort of focused on swimming for in the next couple of months, because a lot of people, you know, there'll probably be more room in the pool, you know, all that, you know, have more opportunity. But I just think it's a really good time to sort of like, you know, build things into your muscles. So next time you know, take a month or two off, it won't seem as difficult. And I think on some level, I've been able to do that throughout the course of my Ironman career. And so like every time I get back in the pool, I'm like, wait, how do you swim again? You know, sort of like not totally forgetting, but things kind of come back a little quicker. And I think that's important for triathletes because most struggle with the water.
Listen, this is, if your season is done and you're looking for a reason and a way to stay engaged and still be a part of a process that's not as daunting and overwhelming and consuming as training for your big race of the year, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, pick something small. Pick something that you know you need to work on. Like you just said, get to the pool, right? Like it's this time of year is the slowest time of year in the pool. It's the winter. We're getting into fall, then we're getting into winter, and no one likes to go to the pool. Go to the pool. Like use this time of year to really like harp on some of your weaknesses. If your weaknesses are running, it's time to run more. Like you just complained for 3 months about how hot it is. We're now about to get like nice, cool, brisk fall temps in winter. Get out and run more. So pick something small, right? That still is going to make you a better triathlete when it comes time for you to kind of harness that focus level and that motivation and commitment to your big, training for the year. It's going to complement that. It's going to make you better off, but it's not something, it allows you time to flex your attention. And I think that's something that needs to be nurtured with most athletes is focusing on one single solitary thing year round is exhausting. And it can be like, banging your head against the wall. So find something small. Go for a 5K PR, go for a new, bike PR, for a test or a route on, whatever, or, swimming, go for your fastest 100 time. Like do things that give you small, tangible, process-oriented goals that keep you engaged, but are also going to allow you to be better down the road instead of just kind of, well, I'm so far out from race day, or what's the point? I'm like, the point is to get better. Like, are we serious right now? The point is to get better. I hate when people say, why are we doing this so far out from race? Don't you want to be fitter and faster for race day? That's why we do shit all year round. Like, it's not overwhelming, but the point is to always get better. If you don't, like, listen, there's about a week that goes by to where you're treading the fine line between getting fitter and getting slower. So the longer you don't, you're getting slower. So you're taking steps backwards, or you can take steps forwards. You don't have to take 5 steps forward in a week, but taking a half step forward is better than taking 3 steps back. So look at it that way. Find small goals, look back through your season, right? And like be very, very, very objective. What went right this year? What went wrong? Did I pick good races? Did I not pick good races? If I didn't pick good races to compete in, why? Was it because I just, got FOMO with 3 buddies sitting in a bar and decided to all sign up for 3 Ironman back to back because that'd be a great idea, and then went horribly? Okay, well, you know what? Don't do that again. Or you can say, hey, well, I picked a race in the summer because I thought it'd be better, had more time to train, but I really hated training in the heat, and my kids were at home, so you know what? Maybe I need to look at a race that's earlier in the year and kind of get it over with. I have my summer back to me, and I don't be so so stressed out about getting things done in the hottest time of the year. Did I pick races that didn't suit my abilities? Did I pick races that travel-wise didn't make sense to me? Okay, how can I fix that? If you felt like you failed in specific areas of swim, bike, and run training, what can I do this time of year? Okay, I didn't swim very well, but you know what? That was kind of self-inflicted because I swam once a week and with no purpose. So, maybe I should focus on swimming this year. Same thing goes for cycling and running. Like, take objective views at Take the long view, right, of where you want to be, and then work your way backwards to the beginning of how you're going to get there. And pick small, detailed things that you can do now to stay engaged to get you where you want to go. And stop making it just about win your races, but think about yourself as an individual, right? Like you started out the podcast, with kind of saying like, stop taking your health for granted. Like if we all just looked at health as like a date on the calendar, we'd all be fat and obese and out of shape, right? And it's something that we want to do better at continuously. We always want to be the healthiest versions of ourselves, because if you just be like, well, think of it this way. I don't really need to be healthy until, for 18 more months. You know what you're going to do for the next 6 months? Eat like crap. Drink like crap. Do whatever you want to. You know what's going to happen in 6 months when it's time to get healthy again? You're going to have 45 more pounds to lose, bad habits to break, and you're going to feel like crap. And plus your blood work's going to come back looking like trash too. But look at it the same. It's about being the best you can be, not just for a race, but in life. And that's, you see that all the time with athletes, that the ones that really, really get it, that love what they do, that's part of who they are, understand and realize that it's not just about training for a race. It's about training becomes part of who you are. It's part of what makes you a better person, a better spouse, a better professional. Helps you work out the world's problems, like in your head. Like, it's all things, again, going back to health. It's about that. Right? It's about taking care of yourself. So when you don't take care of yourself and you neglect that, then things tend to fall apart.
Yeah, and right now after Ironman Wisconsin, after a lot of races, this time of year is always really a good time it's sort of that gray area time where it's easy to just fall off the rails. And I've done it many, many times where I've done the race and then just been like, thank God that's over. And then the next thing you know, it's January and I'm like completely off the rails and thinking about, okay, if I get this started by March 26th, I should be able to time it out right. That sort of final exam cram stuff we always talk about. But I think that, as a coach, that's what I really, and we've talked about this before, you and I don't know if on air, but how important this time is, and like how like a coach can almost really help more during this time than during the year, because it's sort of like, all right, well, help me find out where I want to go and be there as a support system and kind of like someone to bounce ideas off of and whatever, and just sort of stay in the game. And now is a really good time for that. And I know that we have a lot of athletes that actually come to us at this time of year and say, hey, I'm ready to go into next season and I want to start now. Because I think most people do want to start now, but it's really difficult if you're just sort of wavering all over the place and kind of have no structure whatsoever or anybody to kind of help you get there.
Coaching is people management, and that's why, like, October, November, December are our busiest months in terms of athletes that reach out about coaching, and why we always fill up is because people want, like, they go through a year of not really knowing what to do. You can read and try and self-coach all you want, and you can read articles and read books, but they're general. They're not for you. And so many athletes spend so much time not just second guessing, but triple guessing and, fourth guessing and fifth guessing everything that they do all the time. When to take a day off, when not take it off. What's too much, when's too little. When do I peak? How do I peak? How much? When do I start my build? How many weeks out? Is it okay to take off here? What do I do on vacations? Well, I changed jobs, so now my job is all different. Do I prioritize this or prioritize that? I've only got 10 or 12 hours a week. What do I do here? But my weakness is swimming, but how do I prioritize that? And it's like, it's overload. Then you just kind of do the same thing over and over again, the same results. Like, it's just, and that's what most people like come back after like 2 or 3 weeks of getting coaching is like, they're like, dude, I had no idea how much like that the biggest benefit out of the gate was going to be less stress, right? Like, most people are like, oh, I'm getting a coach and they're going to be like this really hard, like, Bobby Knight kind of guy. And they're going to wake me up, with, splashing cold water in my face at 3:30 in the morning and getting me out the door and, yelling at me with a megaphone and calling me, a crappy athlete. And that's what's going to motivate me. No, they're like, dude, I feel so relieved. Like, someone else is putting the plan out there for me, and I just kind of get to wake up and do it and know and trust that it's being done correctly. I don't have to stare at my data, even though I probably don't even know what I'm looking at. I don't need to plan my week out. I don't need to buy a plan and then worry about after 4 days when your whole year goes to crap because somebody got sick or a work changed or travel changed. How do I make this work? Because listen, a plan is only as good as its perfection. As soon as something is changed, it's in chaos, and that's why you need things to be done in pencil. And so that's the thing is like you need to also have like, listen, now's not the time to do 14 hours a week, Johnny. Now is the time to do 8 to 10, right? Let's work on the things we need to work on, because again, there's only one max 2 times a year when you can really, really, really nail it. When you can really go all in, gain a huge amount of fitness, toe that line between just enough and that's too much before you get injured and overtrained versus this is peak fitness with minimal risk. You can't do it all year round. When some athletes want to do that. So coaching, as you know, it's more about holding people back than it is pushing people forward. It's about pushing people, pulling people back 90% of the year, and the other 10% of the year is letting that cord stretch to let their own kind of aspirations and not their ego, but their own, that go-get-it attitude of always want to do more, let them do that. And then just make sure it still falls in line with minimal effective dose, which is we don't need to do, listen, if a 4-hour ride gets us where we want to go, then we're not doing a 5. Like it's just one of those things, like you create too much noise towards the tipping point. And that's why, again, like, that's why people take so many people take 8 steps forward during the course of an entire year. And then the off season, October, September, or September, October, November, December, January, February, even March, they take 6 to 7 steps back, and they end up just taking 1 step forward over a course of a year in their triathlon journey. And they wonder why they keep repeating the same times over and over and over again, or they can't make like the next leap from, middle of the pack to front pack, or back of the pack to middle of the pack, or they're taking a step backwards, right? And they're we use excuses to validate, and to kind of like make ourselves feel better about why we're not getting better. And it's just, it takes so much guesswork out of the way. Like, you have someone else troubleshooting and guessworking for you. All you have to do is wake up, see what's in Training Peaks, and do it. Leave a few comments and go on with, about your business. But you said, like, that's why people tend to, and athletes tend to get very enlightened at the end of the year with how their year went well and how their year went not very well. And that's when most people think, all right, I would, if I can, I would love to have someone help me navigate this next phase. Because you know what? I'm just tired of trying to manage it on my own because I'm not doing a very good job. I would just rather someone else manage it, and at least know I'm getting what I can get out of it, and I'll be better, less stressed, and more fit.
Yeah. I mean, now there's a year between now and maybe your next race or whatever, so it's a good time. But anyway, we do have World Championships tomorrow. And
Televised.
Nice. Yeah. And is it going to... I guess it was super hot, and it has been, but I guess it might be a little cooler on race day.
Everybody was like, I still think it's going to be 120. It's going to be 135 degrees out in Newton. It's going to be like 85 or something. But,
still be hot.
It's going to be, it's going to be toasty.
The hot race protocol is in effect.
It is 100%. And if you're racing it and you don't already know this, everyone makes a big to-do. Tomorrow the high is 85, okay? The forecast for Saturday at 1 o'clock, it's only going to be 76. Give me a break. Okay. Let's not
maybe wear your arm warmers.
But I was looking at the weather last night, and I pulled it this morning before I went on my run, and it was actually St. George's weather and not mine. And I saw this is where it is in you guys in the South will appreciate this. Humidity 18%, dew point 24. I was like, oh baby, here I go. And I was like, crap, that's St. George, where it's, drier than dry. But yeah, it's, and listen, that is a run course. Everyone makes a big to-do about the big climb, but that is a run course. That course is 100% all about the run. I would argue that run, swim, bike in level of difficulty for that course in that race. People hear like, the canyon climb and like, that's the big, it's really good. I'm like, no, dude, like the rest of it, it's like, it's not that bad. It is the run. It's not going to be as hot as they thought, but it's going to be hot because there's zero shade and you're exposed and it's dry. Most people are coming, from a temp where, you kind of get out and you're like, you walk to the mailbox and you're already drenched through your t-shirt, it's people are going to have to be very, very careful hydration. We got Ironman Maryland that's happening tomorrow as well. You got Ironman Italy. Maryland, I know from athletes up there said it's basically like one big ocean filled of jellyfish. And so it's like, it sucks. I've been stung by them before. It is no fun. It's more just kind of like, it stings, but it's kind of one of those like annoying discomforts for just long periods of time. It's not like painful enough to like put you on your back, but it's just, it sticks around. Reference. Yeah, exactly. Zone 3 reference. It just kind of, it's annoyingly uncomfortable for a long period of time. And so that's why a lot of people are like, I think it was borderline wetsuit legal, but they're like, I'm wearing my wetsuit for protection. Like, I am going full neoprene, baby. I'm going to cover myself up and get out of there. If you're doing Maryland, biggest thing there is be very careful the first 60 to 70 miles. I was having a conversation with a couple of athletes and I was like, listen, and this is like, with races that are very, very traditionally very flat, right? And I say traditionally, Maryland's always flat, but people tend to think that they're PR courses no matter what because they're flat. I would much rather every single day of the week ride a course with no wind and lots of hills than a flat course with wind any day of the week.
Oh, for sure.
And that is one of those things where that course, the wind can pick up at any point. And I was saying out there yesterday, I said, for the first 60, 70, 80 miles, like you need to be, as we always say, like if you feel like you're going just about right, you're going too fast. If you feel like you're going too slow, you're going just about right. Because you want to hit mile 60, 70 when the wind is most likely going to pick up and you can think, I got this. Like I've been cruising around at whatever heart rate or power, miles per hour. I'm like, here I'm doing 18 miles an hour and I'm going just easy. And then all of a sudden the wind picks up. Well, guess what? You've got an extra gear to put it in and kind of push it a little bit more for the last 30 miles. While other people who've been pushing it for the first 80 are now going to pull back, and now they're going to fall back, and they're going to be fighting against the wind. People used to always do that. We talk about Wisconsin. They see like the last flat part, and you got wind. People used to always do it at Louisville too. They see the last like 15 to 20, like, oh, it's like basically downhill, and almost always had like a headwind or a crosswind or something. And you're so fatigued, thinking you're going to get an easy stretch for 45 minutes. It ends up being like the hardest stretch you got to fight for the last like 45, 50 minutes. And that's the same with Maryland. So you'd be very careful of the wind, like, because here's the thing about the wind. You can't see it, right? And it's just so like, it's just debilitating. I feel like it is just so frustrating because there's nothing you can do about it. And for straight shots and not very many, for courses without that many turns, you might be stuck in a headwind for 30, 40 minutes. And it's just, time stands still. It's like running on a treadmill or swimming in an endless pool. It's like time stands still.
It does.
It's just like you look down, and you're like, oh, I've been in this pool for at least 1,200. You look down, it's like beep, 300 yards. You're like, oh shit, like this is gonna be a really long. Same for treadmill. You're like, it's probably been 30. It's for sure. Look down, 14 minutes, 38 seconds. You're like, oh jeez, this is so bad. But that's how it feels like to be going against the wind. So again, like no matter what, take your time. You haven't either. Never in my history of coaching I've had an athlete who finished a race be like, dude, took it way too easy the first 60 miles, like way too easy. I got way too much fuel in me. I felt way too good. And I tried to negative split it, but I ran out of room, ran out of road. I was like, no, literally never happens. Ran out of real estate, coach. Like I
was just about ready to keep going.
It's like, no,
hammer it down.
Never happens. Like save it, use it because you got a marathon to run. But the weather looks pretty stellar. For that one, then you got Italy. I think Cozumel 70.3 is next weekend. Augusta 70.3 with a lot of people doing. Then obviously here in our hometown, Ironman Chattanooga, people will be coming in starting next Thursday for the hustle and bustle. And so we'll do, I'm sure, an Ironman Chattanooga preview at some point next week. But that's about it, man. I'm pumped. It's the season isn't coming to an end because it really never stops, but it kind of feels like
definitely a crescendo.
It definitely is a crescendo.
And I have a prediction for me at Chattanooga.
You got a prediction?
Yeah, I will not be going to Kona.
Whoa. It's going out on a limb, folks. Going out on a limb.
Oh, man.
That's all I got. But
that's all you got?
That's all I got, man. That's all I got. Lots of chit-chat today. Lots of corporate talk. I felt like it's
all business.
It's all business today. We're going to talk about the world of triathlon, and next week we'll have on 7 different triathletes for interviews, and we'll market the new ketogenic veg diet.
A lot of people look at triathlon like it's their business, and I think we need to keep the fun in it. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. Yeah, big races coming up, and I'm right in the middle of that. I'm trying to just chill because it is going to be what it is, but there's this weird dynamic that you keep going back and forth. Some days you feel great and taper. Some days you feel you don't. And the next thing you know, you're like, I don't know, you have no idea what's going on, but that's kind of part of the fun, just to get in that water, get on the bike and just see what happens. And that's really where I'm at right now, is just sort of like,
get me in the water.
I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing, we're all doing training. I mean, like, I think that's the thing, right? When I train for halves, I usually can kind of have a better handle on it. But the idea of training for a full is sort of like you have to leave some stuff on the table. You know what I mean? Like in a half training, you can kind of go out routinely, do the distances, and things like that. And when I'm in half training, I'm always riding 56 miles, maybe like 10 times beforehand. You kind of get a good grip on that. But when you're doing a full, you're not doing the distance in any of this stuff very often. And then suddenly you got to combine it, put it together, and everybody's like, man, I've never done, how am I going to run if I've only run 13 miles or 15 miles in training? And you got all those kind of like question marks. But I do think that is part of the fun. It's just sort of, we put in a lot of work over 1 and some people 2 years. And now it's sort of like, just recover and see what the body has. But ultimately, you know, you have to let your body wake up to that day and uncover like what it has before. I mean, that, you know, that's the patience piece. And what you just said about, you know, getting through mile 60 and feeling good. Wow. What a win there.
Seriously. Like, everyone wants to feel that, but yet very few do.
I know.
Very few do.
Yeah, it's just because that overall, you know, it's just a weird thing to think about, because you know, you go into you think about like tri-calcs and like putting that time, that finishing time together based on, like I was just saying, you haven't really got a command of any of the distances. So how can you really do that? You know, you just sort of like, you know, like, well, I might swim a 120, but then you might swim a 110. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to still keep the same game plan, or are you going to try, you know what I mean?
That is why for a full, you must know thyself. Yeah. Because it can go two different ways. We'll end it on this one. As we always say, like, you could train in perfect conditions and then go to a race to where, you know, in your, let's say your ballpark you've thought for your long rides, let's say my ballpark's 200 to 210. That's where I'm going to produce some power for race day. But you've been doing it in the perfect conditions of whatever, you know, state you're living in, and you show up to race day and it's 95. You going to keep that? Nope. You're going to drop it, right? Because you have to be able to, you have to give enough wiggle room for the extra stress and higher heart rate in the more difficult conditions that are more heat, humidity, and dew point. But the same goes for if you, let's say you've been training and you've been routinely putting out 200, 210 watts in 90, 95 degree heat with high humidity and high dew point and just really bad temps. And then you roll up here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the weather's perfect and it's in the 60s and 70s. You might be able to push a little bit more because you're not creating as much stress in your heart rate's going to be lower. Like you have to know yourself, and not just know yourself, but trust yourself, and then go with it and just go with what you know and what you think. But in order to do that, you have to practice that through training, through other races. So no matter what you're doing and where you are, trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Be free. And be free to go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is without question our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. You can check that out. You can peruse our stable of coaches on the coaching staff, find one that's right for you. Reach out and see if you might be a good fit. I think our camps for next year are full already, so I won't talk about them. I'm sure we have a wait list, though. And then that's it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns for Mike, you can reach out to him specifically, crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you reach out to me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
As always.
And happy weekend, everybody. It's a Friday, and we're signing off.
All right.
See ya.